Hey, Jack, how are you doing today?
Outstanding, Greg. Thanks for the invite.
Yeah, my pleasure. I'm looking forward to chatting with you and learning more about you, your practice, and what you do. To get us started, why don't we just take a moment for you to maybe you could tell us a little bit about your practice and what you specialize in.
Yeah, to Sunpointe, we grew out a family office kind of business. So mostly kind of family offices, some G2, G3, along with younger, maybe some in the middle innings of developing their generational wealth, maybe with young kids. But um, I took a little bit of a windy path to get here. I actually was a finance major in college, but also did Army ROTC at the University of Notre Dame to help pay for it. So my
Nice.
starting career was more soldier than investment advisor.
I like that.
The, yeah, the so I did 4 years in Germany, which is really cool to live in a different culture, including 6 months in the Northern Macedonia, is what it's called now, part of the former Yugoslavia, with a UN peacekeeping mission. So it was an incredible experience as a early 20s kid, getting to live on a different continent. But then uh, got off active duty, but stayed in the Army National Guard here in Missouri, and transitioned from a tanker, like armor officer, to engineer, and then got mobilized to command a bridge company in Iraq. So whenever insurgents blew up bridges on our supply line, we'd go put in a temporary one to help keep supplies moving. And and to be honest, it doesn't seem that related, but it actually has helped me a lot in my financial life because I find, trying to dissect people's goals and objectives and what's going on in markets a little bit to trying to figure out the fog of war with a lot of different moving pieces, trying to synthesize them down into what matters to this person and what we need to do to get there.
Yeah, I could see how engineering would help you understand how things work and then be able to unpack them. It's interesting to me. A lot of advisors that I talk to and interview on this podcast, they actually will share that they if not in the army, um, they'll have they'll have done some sort of engineering, and then they realize they actually want to do financial planning. So, engineering turned financial advisor is actually a fairly common thing. But um, maybe you could. Okay, so you started your firm. Maybe you could tell us a little bit more about kind of what inspired you to do this. And then also, you mentioned that you're a family office. Maybe you could take a moment to also explain what a family office is, and then kind of
Yeah,
what inspired you to do this.
that's a good question, segue, tying those together. So soon after I got back from Iraq, I had 30 days leave and was trying to figure out what I wanted to do in life, and ended up finding Hammond Associates, which was a big endowment consultant. Uh, I think we were like the third largest endowment consultant in the world, but you get to be on the board of a big endowment or a foundation by donating a fair amount of money. And if you're going to donate a lot of money, then you have other money usually out to the side. So we had those board members that would say, hey, can you do what you're doing for the endowment for us? And that's where my partner Michael Pompey and I came in. We would help those clients that had to do pesky things like pay taxes that the endowment or foundation didn't have to worry about. So we started working with a handful of those around the country, and then in 2011, Hammond was sold to Mercer, the big health and benefits and pension consultant around the globe. So it was good, loved the people there, but it was a lot of shock going from 120 people to like 60,000 around the globe. They might
Yeah.
be 80,000 ish now. Um, but it was great. So Michael and I have worked together for 20 years in a small organization or a huge organization. And like I said, we love the people. Over time, though, we just decided for our clients and their needs, creating something more bespoke, focused on those family offices and taxable clients made sense. Um, some of them had concerns around, our own products or other kind of conflicts, like managers could have paid to attend conferences.
Right.
So uh, we created Sunpointe. We chose the name Sunpointe to shine a bright light of transparency on things like fees and conflicts of interest that we saw as an issue with other parts of the industry.
So Sunpointe means transparency.
Yep,
I
exactly.
like that. They say sunlight's the best disinfectant. Right?
Very true.
I love that story. I love how you also have the background, but then you and your partner have an experience working for a larger firm, and that's what inspired you to do something more bespoke, where you could have a bigger impact in a more intimate relationship. So I
Yeah.
really like that.
Yeah, and just the open architecture of an RIA and our RIA in particular was really attractive to us, because the worst thing would be like, hey, we have this firm minimum that isn't flexible, or no, we can't talk about tax or legal stuff because we don't want to get in legal trouble in this huge organization. So to me, that's one of the great things, that sometimes I'm the right professional to handle something for one of the families who we work with. Sometimes it's referring to someone else, and often it's us working together to bring in a third or fourth or fifth professional onto the team to all make sure we're coordinating together. Like just this morning, I set up for a client who's thinking about funding a spousal lifetime access trust because they're worried about lifetime gift exemption. A call with their attorney and their CPA that they already work with, but so that we can all be on the same page, since it touches both estate planning, tax planning, and investment planning.
Yeah. So I want to go into more about how you work with your clients in a little bit. First, let's take a step back, and maybe we could talk more about your clients, the types of people that you work with. Maybe you could take a moment to kind of to describe the kind of person who comes to you. Who do you typically work with?
Yeah. The not to start with the negative, but people that are day traders, they're looking for the next hot stock tip, are definitely not our target market. We're focused on long-term relationships, growing generational wealth by helping them make thoughtful decisions and making sure they have clear goals. So I think I mentioned we work with some established family offices where it might be generations 2 through 4, and again some who are young. A lot of times seems like the catalyst could be anything: job change, divorce, marriage, selling a business. A lot of times, so people with a lot of information and data they need to gather together, and who might not be sure either they're on the right path or what the next step is. And then you asked about kind of targets. Not that we really market specifically to these people, but two areas that it seems like have become common clients of ours are like tech or biotech entrepreneurs. We have quite a few of, and finance professionals, which seems a little oxymoronic because they do this themselves. But yeah, really interesting story. I think had another. Michael and I are both CFA charter holders, and had another CFA charter holder hire us last year to consult on his planning and investment portfolio. It started out as a conversation. We'd known each other for several years, and he reached out because his parents are getting to be into their 80s and needed some help. So we worked through that, like, hey, mom and dad, have estate stuff, but they need to get everything consolidated in one place so that it's easy for you and your brother over time to not worry so much about. And as we talked through it, he said, I really could use this kind of structure and advice in my own life. So I ended up becoming a client also. And that really meant a lot to me, that somebody who's a professional in our industry and could probably technically do most things we do.
They trusted you
in working together.
Yeah. That's interesting. They like the structure and the advice you said. That's really interesting. It really stands out that finance professionals also want to work with you too. All right, let's dig into this a little bit more because I want to understand kind of the situation that your clients are in. When it What are some of the questions that your clients will typically ask when they meet with you for the first time? What's keeping them up at night?
Yeah, maybe less. I'll get to the second one second, but first, just one of the ones not necessarily keeping them up, but we get a lot of times a question about how we get paid, and I really like that question because I already mentioned, we chose the name to shine a bright light of transparency and act as a fiduciary, so we don't get soft dollars from anyone. So that's one of the things I definitely like to talk about is just understanding how people are getting charged fees and what they're paying for. And then the one I think that does keep a lot more people up at night, I was thinking about is how do I prepare my kids, grandchildren for wealth,
Mm,
especially the family offices we work with a lot of times. I mean, a lot of the math goes into planning for how to minimize taxes, how to minimize estate taxes if they're over the $30 million estate lifetime estate exemption for a couple. Um, but often the family has the flip side of, you know, how do I make sure they're good people and have enough
mm.
work ethic to keep going? And when
Yeah,
do I talk to them about stuff? So we actually also do a fair amount of work with families creating things. Well, doing financial education early on in the process because Missouri, like a lot of states, has some requirement for financial education in high school, but it's like one class out of 4 years, and my experience isn't fantastic. So being able to sit down with children and grandchildren, high
yeah.
school age ish, I've done it as young as sixth grade, just
Wow.
to talk about how markets work. Um, and again, I think for younger kids today, the big picture, how markets work, is important because I think they get bombarded with things like crypto or Nvidia stock or whatever's hot. Like, hey, uh, I guess Nvidia at least is a better example than what was it, AMC and Bed Bath and Beyond that were all the rage meme stocks. So trying to
Yeah.
give people the perspective of the things they should be thinking about and the options out there are really good.
I love that. So there's some questions around how you get paid, which makes sense because that transparency is something that's really important. But then some things that some more nuanced or more unique to you and your client base. So things like how do I prepare my family for wealth? Minimize taxes, estate taxes. How can you educate my family to prepare them? I love that you sit people down as early as sixth grade and really educate them on how the market works and teach them how to think and to prepare them. So I
Yeah,
love that.
at the micro level, that's great for the kids, and then more top down with grandma and grandpa or mom and dad, we often will help create a family mission and values list that I always say it's important that we think around about passing along personal values at the same time we're passing along account values.
Yeah.
So we just did that with one family recently that had the grandparents essentially had their grandkids, so G3, sign kind of an attestation like, hey, we know we're part of this family, and here's our mission statement, what we're looking to achieve, and our 5 core values that they had chosen. So
Yeah.
that was a pretty cool exercise, just making sure those people that are 21 to 32 years old
Yeah.
all were kind of bought into grandma and grandpa's vision.
Man, I love that. I could imagine being in those shoes and having just a peace of mind around knowing that you're leaving that legacy and leaving so much more than money, but having those values listed and knowing that your family is being educated is something that I could see being incredibly valuable. I like to understand a little bit more about typical situations that your clients come to you with that they need you to kind of lead them through. And it sounds like you mentioned what that might be already. Uh, but maybe you'd like to answer that question separately. Is there a typical situation that your clients come to you with that they need you to lead them through? Does anything stand out?
Yeah, one good story we do have just recently also younger kind of tech executive who's making a transition from one hyperscaler company to a different one. So he's in a great position, and his wife's got a good job, but they have a young child thinking about buying a new house. Um, so he came to us. I was really excited, like the day that he was planning on resigning and changing jobs, and said, "Hey, let's talk through this. Like, I have these RSUs from the company that I'm at that I'm giving up because they haven't all vested, um, and a lot of my pay at the new place is going to be in the form of RSUs, and it's not a publicly traded company yet, so there's some risk there. What do we have to do to is there anything we needed to do to adjust the plan to account for those things?" So, again, obviously, super successful person and family. And I love when people are engaged and we can do the give and take. But it really only took a half hour or 45-minute kind of conversation to say, okay, well, if your pay might be going down a little bit and there's a little more risk in these RSUs. So, of your sign on bonus, let's set some more aside to make sure we have the down payment for the house that we are going to accumulate over the next year or two, set aside. And then also, just looking in the future, doing a little cash flow planning. Like, yeah, I hear several things where you can tighten your belt if necessary. So it shouldn't significantly impact their lifestyle and they should be able to keep putting money away each year. So it was a great conversation.
Yeah, I love that. Being able to sit down with somebody and help them map all that out. Obviously, nothing's a guarantee. Nothing's a guarantee, and you don't know exactly what's going to happen. But just kind of thinking through that and putting a plan around it, I can see would be really valuable. And goes in line with your mission, which is transparency. So communicating transparently with your clients, I think, is something that sounds very unique to you that they value. All right.
Yeah, and then, oh, sorry.
No, no, no.
I,
Go ahead, Jack.
I was just going to say, I don't know that you really asked about exactly how we work together with clients, but just a good tie into that story is we usually start out like creating a family playbook with a list of their team, timeline, like uh, who's involved in their life, spouse, kids, if they might support a sibling or a parent, and then timeline in terms of when they might retire or trust expirations or life expectancy. So building that ahead of time gives us a lot of situational awareness. So when
Yeah.
this comes up, we already know a lot of the players and a lot of the dates, so we can adjust a few things. Like in the military, I always say, no good plan survives first contact with the enemy, and
Right.
financial
Yeah.
plans are a lot like that. But you're way better off if you have the plan to adjust from than if you're just going in blind and trying to figure out what to do when the proverbial stuff hits the fan.
Yeah. We're going to go into more how you work with your clients in a little bit.
Okay.
But I love that creating that family playbook, just, having it there and also having a conversation around it and then getting it in black and white, I could see would be really valuable. Um, so, um, I want to talk a little bit about your clients and how they find you. Where do they tip? Where do you typically find your clients? How do they typically find you? Rather,
Yeah.
where do they come from?
Of course, I'd say of course, but individual client referrals are our most dependable or reliable. So a lot of the things we think about are um, how to make it easier for our clients to help tell our stories. And a lot of times it's with stories about the great things we're helping do. But really, we set up three goals for the year. Um, One being like a client growth and client experience. Um, and to me, the client experience is always the most important one because if we continually wow our current clients, that will lead them to talk about us. So
Yeah.
So sometimes I feel I find it a little challenging because I never have a hot stock story that's super cool at a cocktail party. But when you take somebody's kid who's going through a messy divorce and can manage to guide them through that and protect assets through the generational trust they've set up and stuff, that also goes a long way to the family's peace of mind. Like, I rolled this wheelbarrow full of kind of crap into my advisor's office, and they managed to, in 6 months or something, sift through it enough so that it turned out to be a halfway decent situation for my family overall. Uh, yeah, trying to make lemons out of lemonade, or
Yeah,
lemonades out of lemons.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, that flashy stuff probably doesn't, resonate well with your clients, but that service and commitment to service and deeply caring about those people um, probably would be. I'm obviously, I don't know your clients. I've never spoken with them, but it seems like that would be much more compelling than just some flashy stock tip.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Matt mentioned the analogy we really like to use to you before, which is garden glove service. Instead of white glove kind of waiters carrying out and placing plates and waiting on our clients, we think of ourselves much more as gardeners, where we're digging in, getting dirty with you, and working together really to build a lasting legacy that will grow over time.
I really like that. I've never heard that before. We dig in with you.
Yep.
That's cool. I like that a lot. Um, a couple things that I want to touch on before we talk about how you work with your clients. Um, I like to always kind of ask, what the future holds for you and what your vision is. So, where do you see taking your practice in the next 2 to 3 years? What's your vision? Are there any goals you're working on?
Yeah. I mean, we're continuing to grow, targeting to grow 15-ish% a year, like in terms of assets and revenue, but also building out more of these other wraparound services for families. So I think we've always done a fantastic job of investment management and kind of institutional quality investment management back to our Hammond and Mercer days. Um, and kind of core financial planning is good, but feel like we could continue to build out both family governance, next gen education, because I think we do a good job with kids, but we could also build out more around those kind of life events you're talking about, like other
Yeah.
checklists for marriage or kids, um, and then philanthropy. I've done a fair amount of work on, and we've done a white paper about our philanthropic framework, helping people define their philanthropic goals, a structure to do that, if it's a donor advised fund or a foundation, and just the ways to make it efficient, like a qualified charitable deductions. But I do feel like we could do even more there. I'm on the board of a nonprofit here, Our Ladies Inn, that helps women that are homeless and pregnant, gives them shelter and wraparound services for a year, and then has like a 2 year follow up after that. But that giving back is really important to me, and helping other people be efficient so it costs them the least amount, and whatever causes their sport and get the most benefit out of it is one of the things I find particularly interesting and important to me.
Yeah. I'm noticing a pattern where you have these kind of unique structural process things that are designed around adding or delivering on a specific service to a client. And it sounds like you're working on really building them out. I think you've mentioned like a wraparound service and creating the structure there. So like the internal structure, the process, and kind of how you work with the client. I like that a lot. It shows kind of your engineer mind at work, right?
Yeah.
Creating order out of chaos. I'm seeing a pattern there with you, Jack.
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
really like that.
definitely. I mean, like our, I don't know if it's a tagline, is clarity, comfort, and confidence. That take that big mess of information or data that exists in the world and synthesize it down to usable information to people to help give them some clarity around their life that leads to confidence in better decisions, that leads to more comfort so they can sleep at night.
So you mentioned some of the some of the directions that you want to take your practice. Is anything standing in your way? Any challenges?
Hmm. The I mean, things are good. Always seems like business development and advisors. I mean, so we've added five other kind of advisors, some more established and might have a family office client or two, but also trying to translate all our family office experience down to a lot of those clients that might be $1 to $10 million in investable assets. So they don't necessarily have to do estate planning, but the family education and a lot of times family governance might be really important to them,
Mm-hmm.
even if they're, not creating a multi-generational trust. I don't know any parents that don't want their to set their kids up for
Yeah,
success.
definitely, definitely. Well, I love it, love it, love it. All right, let's talk about your actual process. Maybe you could walk us through that. You touched on it a little bit, but let's dive deeper into it. So when somebody, let's say somebody becomes a client today, what does onboarding look like? What happens the first couple of weeks, and what does it look like to work with you over the course of a calendar year? Could you unpack that a little bit?
Yeah. So, of course, upfront, getting to taking time to understand the client's needs and really make sure we're a good fit together is one of the most important things. And that's where that playbook with the team timeline, talking about their cash flow and balance sheet comes in important. And then synthesizing those to really get to what their objectives are, um, understanding risk tolerance, because it's something I like to push on. I mean, you can pick on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm an 8, so should I be 80% equities? Like if it was just that easy, I'd be really worried about my job getting replaced by AI because you could just pick the right thing.
Yeah.
Um, I like telling people, mathematically, given history, your best asset allocation is 100% equities. Like highest expected return, but there's a lot of volatility along the way. My goal is to get you to the right asset allocation, which is the one that you can live with, even when stuff really does hit the fan. And if
Yeah.
your equities are down 50% and your portfolio is down 20, kind of like we might have experienced in 2008,
Mm.
which, as an aside, is getting harder for more people to conceptualize because it's getting further and further away.
Yeah.
Um, what then? Like, it's easy to say, you're okay with that now, but um, creating an investment policy where we have rebalancing rules that says, hey, I'm going to rebalance or add to equities if they're down a lot more than bonds. And I feel like that commitment helps people stick with the plan. So, so figuring out the goal, figuring out a target allocation, and managers to fill out the allocation is the important first step. But then going kind of continually, we send clients a monthly newsletter, quarterly performance reports that we use Adapar's reporting system that I think is really robust, especially for the large clients. If you have any private investments or stuff like that on the side that help take that mess of data
Mm-hmm.
and make it usable information. And then, so all our clients we meet with at least once or twice a year to talk through these things. Some people want it to be on autopilot, like you just handle that stuff and tell me if there's a problem.
Yeah.
So we can do that. But especially for the family offices, I'd say we meet with most of them 3 to 4 times a year, um,
That's a lot.
to
That's good. Yeah.
to to talk through everything that's going on, and of course, plenty of ad hoc meetings, um, where I mentioned one issue with the client creating a slat, playing the quarterback role,
Yeah.
getting together an accountant and an attorney to make sure everybody's on the same page.
I love that. So you create a lot of the structure to bring them on, get them on a regular cadence, minimum once per year. But for the more complex cases, you meet multiple times a year, and of course, you're available ad hoc as anything comes up. So,
Yes,
I
sir.
I love that. I love it. All right, let's land this plane, Jack. For someone listening who is interested in possibly working with you or getting in touch, what should they do next? Where should they go?
Yeah, our website's just sunpointeinvestments.com. I think is a great place. You can see our team bio and there's some FAQ if that's interested. But the easiest thing is probably just to click the button that says start a conversation. And that will connect you with me or the right advisor if there might be another better match. So we can reach out. And, one of the things I think relative to this, there's plenty of people I think who could do it on their own. And I mean, I could renovate my kitchen on my own, but knowing myself, I definitely should not.
Yeah.
Um, I, I think of it in terms of like a professional athlete, is the one of the best physical specimens on earth, and could do all kinds of incredible things, but they still have coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And Michael Jordan made the point. One of his greatest attributes was being coachable.
Mm-hmm.
So if elite athletes use coaches, I like to think that's one of the reasons. Like I said, our other CFA charterholder colleague hired us. I just think about how much better a young entrepreneur could be at running their business if they had a coach like us alongside to worry about the financial planning and investing, and give them guidance on their side.
I love it. Love it. Well, thank you so much, Jack. Thank you for sharing your story, your unique take on things, and the commitment you and service you provide your clients. Thank you so much.
Sounds good. Thanks, Greg.